Yes. What's going on, people? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown here, and we're here for episode number 50. 50. We're at a landmark. Episode 50 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast with my dad, the main man, Mr. Controversial in the building. Laurie from AFTV in the house, man. Number 50, man. I feel like, yeah, you have to throw some bombs today. You have to.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. Great to be here. Episode 50. I can't believe it's been 50 already, man. Time seems to have flown by. Yeah. But yeah,
time
man,
flies when you're having fun.
Absolutely. And it's kind of ironic that it's episode 50 and we've got a great show lined up ahead. Unlike in previous weeks where there was a lot of doom and gloom about. This weekend, there's plenty to be excited about, man. So, yeah, man, let's go.
Absolutely, man. And you know what? I'm thinking for my 50th episode, I'm going to give away a couple of T-shirts, man, to some of the loyal people in here that come every week. Do you know what I'm saying? Big up those guys, man. You know who you are. Drop me a DM, and if I got your size, I'll send you a T-shirt. So shout out to all you guys, man. You know the rules. Come in the chat, leave your comments, tell us your thoughts, and we'll happily read it out. Do you know what I'm saying? Don't forget to hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get cooking, man. We've got a great show today. We've got comments in the building already, so let's go through them quickly, Laurie. IB has said here, what's happening, guys? Big week ahead, and this episode is going to bang. I usually catch up instead of the live, but last week's episode about Porter, how is it conceivable that Porter beat Usyk in the amateurs? It's crazy. Yeah, so it's hard to get my head around that time, man. It's crazy. But big up IB.
I think it's fair to assume that since those days that Alexander Usyk's had a big growth spurt, whereas maybe Sean Porter not so much. He's probably the same height now than he was when they fought back then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he can lay claim as to one of the few people to beat Alexander Usyk, isn't it? Because let's be honest, man, it's not often Usyk gets beaten.
No.
So
very true.
That's a big feather in Sean Porter's cap, to be honest.
Big up IB for the comment. My boy Harvey in the chat, he said here, good evening, lads. Hope you're both well. I'm looking forward to the show as always. That's it, man. Drop me a DM, Harvey, and I'll see if I got your size. I'll send you a T-shirt, no charge, man. Same with Francisco. He's put here, good morning from Arizona, brothers. You guys are 50-0, like Floyd. Big up Francisco, man. Big up Francisco as well. I'll send him a tea as well. I've got a few left. So, yeah, on the house, because it's 50th episode, these guys have been here every week. Definitely want to send one out. So let me know. Laurie.
You can't make it rain like Floyd can, but 50-0 is a nice feat, though. Yeah.
For sure, man, for sure. But listen, we've got a great show today, by the way. Great show today. I'm really, like you said, the last few weeks has been a bit doom and gloom, been moaning a lot. But this week now kicks off, a good few weeks in boxing in general. We got Joshua and Usyk on Saturday. We got Wilder and Fury in a couple of weeks. We got Canelo and Plant to look forward to. We've got what else we got? We got Shakur Stevenson. He'll be fighting Jamel Herring. That's a good fight to look forward to. There's a lot of fights, man. A lot of fights coming up that I'm looking forward to. And this one here to kick us off could be the most intriguing one of the year. It could be. I'm really looking forward to this, and I can't wait to get your opinion on it. I know we spoke on it a bit last week, but I'm going to tell you, man, Joshua and Usyk, I love both of them. Harvey, big up Harvey. He said it earlier today. It's going to be hard seeing one of them lose, but one of them's got to lose unless it's a draw. But I'm really looking forward to this fight, man. And the closer we get, my original pick was Joshua. The closer we get, I mean, I'm still picking Joshua, but I have to say, man, my pick is, I'm not that confident anymore. I'm not as confident anymore.
No, but you know what? That's entirely natural for you to feel that way. I think all of us, to some degree, go through that. You start off, you got a very firm favorite in your mind when the fight is announced, and you're convinced he's going to win. And like I said previous times, over the course of many weeks, you're going back and forth in your mind, and you're starting to hear little bits and pieces about how that other guy's looking good in training, and you start looking at his record, some of his previous fights, and then you think, well, you know what? No one's beaten him yet. There's no blueprint on how to beat Usyk yet, is there? Whilst there is a blueprint out there on how to beat Joshua. And then you start thinking of all those fights that Usyk's had. No one's ever been able to solve the puzzle. and you're thinking to yourself, you know what? Even though he's not looked convincing since he moved up to heavyweight, maybe he's kept something in reserve, either consciously or subconsciously. And maybe he feels that AJ is going to bring the best out in him. And you start to think, well, this will be a lot more difficult than I first envisaged. So that's entirely natural to think that way. But I'm still going with Joshua for reasons I'll expand upon later in the show. But the one thing you said there, man, actually two things you said there. One, it's going to be a tremendous fight. And the second thing you said there is it's a tremendous fight between two tremendous athletes, both very likable as well. It's not often you get that, is it, really? No. Because both these guys, man, they seem like stand-up guys. I mean, obviously we don't know too much about Usyk, but from what we have seen, he seems like a stand-up guy. There doesn't seem to be any malice in him. He lets his fist do the talking, and he seems like a class act. And the same, of course, can be said for Joshua. So it's one of those guys, man, where you can't even really hate on Usyk, is it? There's just nothing to hate on. You can't hate on his record. You can't say that he's overrated, and you can't say that he doesn't appear to be a nice guy. Yeah. And it's good to see actually that nice guys do come first as well. I mean, I'm sure we're going to touch on the Canelo and Canelo-Plant stuff.
Of course we will.
And listen, that is entertaining in its own right, and people like that. But we also like guys who carry themselves professionally and, you know what I mean, have a certain degree of courtesy towards one another. Because we all know that once the bell goes, man, all bets are off. These guys are going to be looking to tear each other's heads off in a very calculated and, professional way. But one thing you can guarantee with these guys, man, they won't be throwing any cups of water around the room and throwing up tables and jumping over security trying to assault each other. They'll keep it professional up until that bell goes, and then they'll, you know what I mean, then they'll go at each other, which many people will say that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Big up Harvey here, man. He said here, I remember when it first got announced, I thought that AJ would win easy. After going back and watching fights, I still back AJ, but it's much closer. Now during fight week, this is almost a 50-50 for me. Still AJ, unanimous decision. I felt the same way. After the Usyk Chisora fight, I remember I was watching a fight with a cousin of mine, and he was just like, he's a casual. He was just like, nah, man, like Joshua's gonna wash Usyk, man. Usyk ain't ready for the big guys at heavyweight, blah, blah, blah. And I got it. Like, I understood his take because Usyk hasn't impressed as a heavyweight to me yet. I mean, he's had 2 fights so far, Chaz Witherspoon and Derek Chisora. He got the win. However, he hasn't looked that great. I mean, he hasn't looked as impressive as he has as a cruiserweight. But I mean, like you said, how do we know he hasn't even used the half of his reserves yet? Do you know what I mean? It could all come out on show on Saturday night. And I really think that Usyk, he knows what he's coming up against. He chased this fight. And my concern, let's talk about the actual fight now. Let's break down the fight. My concern with Anthony Joshua is the middle rounds, middle to the late rounds. He always has some sort of like, you know, he has to catch a second win during the fight, which most boxers have to do. Do you know what I mean? But it can be telling in the mid rounds. And I just think Usyk's stamina, he's got tremendous stamina. Even as a heavyweight, I mean, he's shown he can go all the way and throw combinations without showing too much fatigue. And I'm just wondering if he can survive those early shots from Joshua, which is a big if, because he's going to get hit. How's he going to take the middle rounds? And, you know, Usyk giving him angles. He's very good at making you think on your feet. You know, like he puts mental pressure on you, and it almost fatigues fighters. We saw it with Tony Bellew. Well, it did fatigue him. And I'm just thinking, like, at some point during the fight, if Usyk's still there, I can see that sort of pressure happening on AJ. And I don't know how he'll take it. I think he's going to have to ride a storm or so to get through this for sure. I mean, there's no way he's going to blow Usyk out. I'll be very surprised if he did. I'll be very surprised if he just goes in there and blows out Usyk. I think that it's going to be a chess match to start off with. And I can see Usyk having success in the mid to late rounds. But ultimately, I just think that Joshua's at home. Do you know what I mean? He's got the whole team behind him. You're really up against we talk about the machine being Canelo. Usyk's up against the machine here with it being at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, AJ, the judges, Matchroom show. You know, he just signed his life away on a Matchroom deal. You know what I mean? Usyk's used to fighting on the road, but I think that's going to be difficult for him to overcome. So I'm saying Joshua on points maybe a majority decision. That's my prediction, but let me hear your thoughts.
Right, yeah. Listen, you made a number of points there, and pretty much all of them are pretty valid points to make. Not so I agree with everything you said, but in terms of the first thing, so the stamina issue, that a lot of people have cited stamina as a possible weakness for, and I think they may have tried to address it, because we will never know until the actual night of the fight. But I think there's a lot of speculation about AJ coming in a lot lighter. We're expecting him to come in a lot lighter for this fight, a more slimmed down version. And I think that is entirely the right thing to do, because I think that we all know, it's just physiology, that carrying around a load of muscle, AJ is quite heavily muscle, especially upper body, shoulders and stuff like that. Carrying that bulk around, man, for 12 rounds, it's very jarring on the body, and you're bound to gas out at some stage. So him trimming down and being a lot lighter, I think it's going to help in that regard. I mean, you try doing a 5K run and you've got a load of stuff on you, yeah? A lot of clothes on you, compared to running that same 5K with just a vest and shorts and trainers on. And I think you'll see what I mean. You'll appreciate the difference. So I think that that's a good strategy to deploy where you're coming in lighter. They've also done a lot of sparring with, so I'm told, with smaller guys, medium guys, big guys. So basically, AJ's been doing like 12, 15 rounds in sparring at a time. Hopefully not too intense, because you don't want to get bashed up too much before the fight, during sparring. But from what I hear, he's been sparring good. He's been doing a lot of rounds. So I think all those things will help. He's been doing a lot of running, road work, all those things to try and improve his stamina. I think that those things will be crucial in the fight, because like you, I do not see AJ blowing Usyk away. Usyk has got a very good chin, hasn't he? I mean, he's been in with some big punchers over the years. Gassier, Bradis, Glavatsky, people like that. Although they're cruiserweights, they're not heavyweights, so that's an important point to make.
You can punch as well, yeah.
Well, you could punch. I mean, even when he stepped up to heavyweight, take away Chaz Witherspoon, is not a noted puncher, but Chisora can bang a little bit, you know what I mean? And he didn't seem to put any real dents in Usyk. So I think it's fair to say that Usyk does have a good chin. We know he's got a great heart. So even if he does get chinned and go down, I don't expect him to stay down unless he's caught with the perfect shot. So yeah, man, I mean, I think the tactics have to be right. I said on your show last week, the tactical battle in this fight is crucial, absolutely crucial. I think what AJ needs to do is to go in there. He's the bigger guy by some considerable margin. I think he's 6'6" to Usyk 6'2" or 6'3". I think he's got like a 5-inch or at least a 4-inch reach advantage. And let's face it, he's the naturally bigger, stronger, and younger man by 3 years. You know what I mean? Let's not forget that. He's the younger man. He's a more explosive athlete. So what I want him to do, or what I feel is best for him to do, is to come in there and to try and take center of the ring fairly soon, to try and dominate that real estate in the ring. You know what I mean? Push Usyk back behind the jab. Don't get overexcited with it. You know what I mean? Don't overwork yourself too early. You can win some of the rounds, but you don't have to win them going away, because Usyk tends to be quite a slow starter. Bit like Lomachenko. If you watch Lomachenko, they're two close friends, as we know, and they're trained by the same guy, which is Anatoly Lomachenko, which is Vasyl Lomachenko's dad. And what these guys tend to do, they tend to start slow. They're basically processing information, feeling out the opponent, maybe taking a couple of shots on the arms just to see how hard they punch and stuff like that. And then they tend to come on after a few rounds and get stronger as the fight goes on. So AJ's got to be wary of that. But at the same time, he's got to be picking up rounds, trying to put dents in Usyk when he can, corner him, hurt him to the body, let him know basically that AJ is the bigger, stronger man with the heavier dig. And if he can do that, and if he can take control of those early rounds, set the pattern, set the pace, which, like I said, he doesn't want to go off too fast. Start making some dents in Usyk fairly early. I think that will tell as the fight materializes. Now, it's interesting because when this fight was first made, I was sort of coming down on the side of an AJ stoppage. But a bit like you know what I mean? Over the course of the build up to this fight, you start to second guess yourself a little bit. You know what I mean? And I was thinking in terms of how good a boxer Usyk is, how experienced, how cagey he is. And yes, he does get hit. He definitely does get hit. He's been hitting all his fights cleanly at times. But I think that probably AJ's best strategy is to target the points win. And if the stoppage comes, then it comes. But I think it's more likely that AJ is going to win on points, though he may hurt Usyk a couple of times, visibly, may stagger him, may drop him, but he can't afford to get too excited and gas out. So I think he's got to be controlled, but it's got to be controlled aggression. He's got to try and be on the front foot for the vast majority of this fight, and he's got to make his size tell. And if he can do all that, I think he will get a unanimous points decision win. So I'm definitely going for AJ. The difference is last week, if you asked me, I would have said late stoppage for AJ. Now I'm kind of leaning towards a significant points victory. So unanimous points win for AJ. But like I said, I think he might either drop him or hurt him, wobble him a couple of times along the way.
Let's go to some comments here. Stefan has said, I think Usyk will win if he sees out the first 6 rounds. I can't see him getting a decision, though, especially after AJ signing that new deal. Usyk needs a late stoppage. Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said as well. Ian Hamilton in the building. He's put here, evening, guys. Let's do this again. Not like there isn't a huge fight this weekend to get our juices going, for real. Harvey has said here, Joshua's jab is crucial for this fight, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he's also said here that the body work is also important for AJ. Slow down Usyk's feet and movement. Obes has said AJ needs to hold center and have a very active left, jabs and hooks. Francisco has said they're both excellent boxers. It should be a tactical match, like you said. Usyk can't overcome the size difference, but AJ has shown some chin issues, so Usyk is a live underdog. AJ wins by decision. What do you think, Laurie, about the fact that Usyk will be Joshua's second southpaw opponent that he's fought as a pro? He fought Charles Martin, won that pretty easily. Didn't really break the sweat in that fight.
That wasn't even a test for him, really, was it? That wasn't a test for him.
How will Joshua react to somebody fighting somebody like Usyk? Do you know what I mean? Because when was the last time he fought an opponent like that? Probably in the Olympics.
But it's the same for both people, really, isn't it? When was the last time Usyk fought anyone near the size and dimensions and the power and skill of AJ? You know what I mean? That's how that balances itself out. We're all saying, we're all saying here that, well, a lot of people are saying, listen, AJ's never fought anyone like Usyk before. That's true. But when has Usyk ever fought somebody with the dimensions of AJ? When is, looking back in Usyk's fights, when has he ever, if ever at all, come up against a guy that's taller than him? I don't think you're going to see that, are you? For a cruiserweight, he's quite big, 6'3", stands tall, good jab, movement. And a lot of the guys he fought, even your guys, the better ones, the Gassievs, Murat Gassiev, Glavatsky, Maris Bradis, and all those guys, they're quite short and stocky. So he was able to dominate them behind the jab. I don't see him doing that to AJ. You know what I mean? Not at first, anyway. I can only see him dominating behind the jab once, if AJ starts to gas out a little bit. Like I said, if AJ can establish center ring and keep Usyk on the move, I think that's the key to victory. And like one of your contributors just said there, he's got to put dents in Usyk to the body, establish the jab, ramrod that jab in, body shots, the uppercut. AJ's got an excellent uppercut. So when Usyk does try to close the distance, there might be a space for landing the uppercut there. So there's a lot of tools he can deploy to win. It's just if he can put together the right game plan. Yeah.
I think Joshua's really embracing this as well. He's really embracing the battle. Do you know what I mean? He knows how good Usyk is. There's a lot of respect between the two at the press conference. But one thing about Usyk that I'm not just batting the drum for Usyk. We're kind of playing devil's advocate here, going back and forth with each other. But one thing I do like about Usyk is he's not like other opponents. He's not like, oh yeah, I just want to come here and give it my best shot and I want to get the win. Like Usyk is talking like he's expecting to win. When I see fighters do that, like he's just saying like, yeah, I'm up against, but I'm expecting to win. Like that sort of thing, that confidence, man. It just breeds, like it just shows how good of a fighter he is. Do you know what I mean? Both of them were Olympic gold medalists at London 2012. But Usyk's amateur experience far outweighs Joshua in terms of how many fights they've had. He's the road warrior. So I just don't see anything phasing him. I just don't see the Tottenham crowd phasing him. I don't see it. I think that like the first couple of rounds are going to tell me a lot because I want to see how they approach this fight. Like you said, I don't want to see Usyk start off too slow because he's going to give himself a mountain to climb anyway, especially with the judges. We have to take that into consideration as well. So, but he's not a naturally fast starter. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. Could you see it being a controversial decision either way? Can Usyk win a decision?
Well, listen, we would hope that the judges do right by the boxers. You know what I mean? I think I said to you a couple of weeks ago on this same show that the one thing we don't want is to have these two guys put it on the line and Usyk put in a great performance and then he gets robbed on the scorecard. You know how I feel about stuff like that. Listen, I'm going to put my cards on the table and express my patriotism there. I want AJ to win. I hope he wins. I think he will win. But I don't want to see a scenario where he's well beaten and he still ends up getting a decision. That is not good for boxing. That is not good for AJ. That is not good for anyone. You know what I mean? It will leave a real sour taste in everyone's mouth. And I'm sure deep down, AJ wouldn't want that. He seems to me like a decent guy, a fair-minded guy. He will want to go out there. He's trained all this time for this fight. He believes in himself. He'll want to do it properly. He isn't going to want to be gifted anything by the judges. And I sincerely hope that doesn't. Listen, these judges this weekend, man, the public are watching, you know what I mean? There's a lot of scrutiny on this fight. The whole world is watching. And if they go in and turn out some bullshit decision, man, it's not going to reflect good on them at all. You know what I mean? And in boxing. So I hope they bear that in mind. Not that they should have to be reminded, but let's just hope, man, that there's no skullduggery going on. Now, listen, that being said, it is natural, especially when you've got 70, 80,000 fans in an arena and 95% of those 80,000 are shouting for one man, that we're only human beings. So every time AJ lands a punch, the crowd are going to go wild. If Usyk lands a punch, it's going to be a lot less reaction. So I understand that can influence people. But at the end of the day, I don't know who they are, but I'm sure they're going to be experienced officials who have officiated many fights. And I hope they'll be concentrating on the action in the ring. And not swayed by the crowd. And that's what makes it hard, isn't it, for fighters to go on the road and win. And it shows you how good Usyk's been, that he's gone on the road and he's won. And if you look at the fights that he's had, he's won them by unanimous decisions. I think I saw one majority decision, when he fought, who was it?
That Bradis.
Yeah.
That was controversial, that one as well.
Decision or majority. Yeah, but I think a lot of people said that they thought he won that clearly. So was there a bit of home cooking going on there? Possibly. But for some reason, he never fights in Ukraine, or he hasn't fought in Ukraine for a long, long time. Probably economics probably dictate that situation. But like I said, man, the one thing we don't want on Saturday is to come late Saturday night, instead of us talking about the action that went on in the ring, is talking about how Usyk got screwed by the judges. I sincerely hope that doesn't happen. But boxing being boxing, man, you can't rule it out.
You have to remember, man, just before I go to the comments, you have to remember, in Joshua against Klitschko, I don't think you agree with this, but a lot of people had Joshua down in that fight. But obviously, he ended it conclusively anyway in the 11th round. However, the official judges' scorecards had Joshua in a bit of a lead. And I think a lot of people were surprised about that. So that's kind of in the back of people's heads, like, oh, is Usyk gonna have to drop AJ a few times to get a draw? Do you know what I mean? Hopefully that's not the case. But yeah, I do remember that fight with Klitschko.
I mean, listen, a few weeks ago with the Pacquiao Ugas fight, if somebody said to me before that fight that Ugas would get a points decision over Manny Pacquiao, I literally would have laughed in their face, because I had it in my mind that Ugas would get robbed if he come anywhere near close to winning the fight. I did not see that at all, and yet I was proven wrong. But then other times with other boxers, and I'm not going to name any names right now, but you know who I'm talking about, they seem to get, any time the fight is even remotely close, they will just run out handy winners, and you think, what the hell was those judges looking at? So I just hope it's not one of them. But I think we have to also be fair and say that if it is very close, can you see Usyk getting the nod? I don't know if that's going to happen. More times, these little nuances, they go with a home fighter. So I think that's fair to say in anywhere in the world, isn't it? I think if it was in Ukraine and it went very close, it's highly likely, highly probable that Usyk would get favour. And the same will probably apply in England. But listen, I very much hope that we're not, after the fight, talking about judging and stuff like that. We're talking about how good the action was in the ring, because I think this is going to be a really good fight. I don't see it being a rip-roaring fight with the two of them standing in the ring and just bashing each other to bits, because they just don't fight like that. And certainly Joshua hasn't fought like that for a while, not since he's been stepping up in class. And Usyk, we know, is a brilliant boxer. And he likes to move, and he's, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So I don't see him standing there. There will be times when they will have to let their hands go. And, you know what I mean, they'll have to assert their dominance. So you will see exchanges. But I see I'm actually starting to see a 12-round fight develop in front of me.
Same. Let me go to some comments here. Stefan has said, I can't wait for this fight, to be honest, but I'm also looking forward to it being over so we can focus all our attention on Chisora Parker too.
I think Stefan's trolling there, man.
He's 100% trolling, man. Obes has said here, AJ sounded like he was in very good spirits. Ian Hamilton has said here, this is the biggest test ever for AJ. Win this, and it's his best win. I don't want to see AJ on the back foot for the counter. He's bigger, and he has to be the aggressor in a controlled way. He's spot on there, isn't he?
Yeah, well, we would like to think so. I mean, supposing AJ goes in there and bangs him out after 4 or 5 rounds, and people will say, oh, Usyk was nothing but a blown-up cruiserweight, and we should have seen in the fights with Chaz Witherspoon and Derek Chisora that he wasn't a true heavyweight, and AJ still got a lot to prove, and until he beats Fury or Wilder, I still can't recognise him as number one. And listen, Wilder and Fury fight in October, but to me, if AJ wins on Saturday, which I expect him to do, then he will be the number one heavyweight in my eyes. He will have, without doubt, the best resume of any heavyweight boxer. And that includes Tyson Fury.
Yeah. Harvey says here, Usyk will have to win 8-4 or 7-3 to get it on the cards, in my opinion. Other than that, it will be a draw or it will be given to AJ.
I could see a draw as well, you know. I could see a draw.
Yeah.
And when I say a draw, I'm not talking about the judges gifting AJ a draw because they don't want to them not to lose. I can see this being a very close fight where some of the rounds will be very hard to score. I'll kind of visualize that, you know what I mean? When I was been thinking about this fight, I've been going back and forth in my mind for the last few days, and I can see a close fight. I can also see AJ hurting and stopping him, or at least hurting and dropping him on the way to a wide points victory. I can't see AJ losing for some reason, though. I just feel that, and I'll tell you why that is. I'll tell you why that is because what I've seen with AJ is progression. And I'm looking at him now, 31 years of age, with his experience, with his amateur experience, his Olympic gold medal, the way he's developing as a fighter, the way he's impressing me by the way he's going about his work in a quite cerebral way. He's not just relying on the big right hands and left hooks and uppercuts. He's talking a good game. And I can see progression there. And I'm thinking all those things coming together in a fight of this magnitude, we could see him start to peak. So this, you know, this year and the next year or so in his career, we could see him start to peak. And that's why I think that he will win this fight. I think he will make a statement and win this fight. And I think a lot of people will be very impressed with the AJ that we see on Saturday. He's given me that vibe. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, and I'm seeing a guy that looks very switched on, very focused, a guy that's embracing the different nuances of the game. So, for example, when he fought Parker and he fought that way, a lot of people criticized him, said, oh, he should have got Parker out of there, blah, blah, blah. Well, it wasn't as easy as that because Parker gave him a lot of movement. Parker was quite negative, but AJ still found a way to win. The Andy Ruiz, the second fight, we saw him box a completely different fight there, and he done it with some aplomb, despite the criticism, people saying, it was a bit negative, but he did what he had to do to win. Even in the Pulev fight, he had Pulev hurt a couple of times. He didn't gas out. He was controlled. And he did what he needed to do to get the win, and he finished it off with aplomb. So I'm seeing AJ now that I think is starting to come into his prime. Whereas with Usyk, I hope I'm not doing him a disservice there. He could be slightly going the other way. I mean, listen, man, he's done a tremendous amount in his career, both as an amateur. He too was an Olympic gold medalist. In fact, those two won Olympic golds in the same tournament in London. Usyk won the heavyweight in 2012 at London, and of course AJ won the gold at super heavy. Some would say that Usyk's was a lot more impressive because, as you remember, there was a little bit of controversy over Anthony Joshua's win in the final, and I think he did get the benefit of the scorecards when he fought the Cuban early in the fight. But anyway, that was a long time ago, man. That's what, 8-9 years ago.
Yeah, but who's Joshua fought?
I think like Usyk. What?
Who's Joshua fought like that since? That's the question.
Yeah, but like I said, I see Usyk as possibly as peaked already. I mean, he's what, 34 years old now. He's had them hard fights on the road when he won the cruiserweight title, and he looked good. But they were hard fights. They were demanding fights. He came through those. He came through well. But I'm looking at where they are in their careers, man, and I think this might be AJ's time, as they say.
Big up Big Lou here in the chat. He's put here, I can't see AJ losing. He might even stop Usyk late. Obza says here, Usyk definitely has the power to hurt AJ. If AJ's tired and Usyk throws a shot he doesn't see, it will hurt him. I agree, 100%.
Yep.
Obza has also said here, one thing I'll say about this lifetime contract announcement, weird timing and weird contract. I have to agree. Well, what do you think? Let's kind of wrap this up here with the whole preview. I'm still going Joshua by decision, but I think it is going to be closer than a lot of, well, not than a lot of people, but I think it'll be a Joshua decision where it could be open to interpretation. You're going for Joshua quite heavy on the points decision, right?
Yeah, I'm going Joshua. I think he'll win. Like I said previously, I was talking about stoppage. I'm kind of reining that in a little bit now based on the fact that Usyk will be very, very motivated for this fight. So in other words, what I'm saying is I'm not paying too much attention to the Chaz Witherspoon and Derek Chisora fights. But, you know what I mean? I do think that he's not shown at heavyweight so far that he's on a level with AJ, but this is another fight. It's a different motivation. And of course, it's a different opponent. So we can't automatically compare Derek Chisora and AJ because they're two completely different styles. And it could be that Usyk will match up better against AJ's style, although I don't think so, because like I said, Usyk, if you look throughout his career, his best wins have come against guys that are a lot shorter than him, where he's been able to dominate them behind the jab and stuff like that. I don't think he's going to be given that luxury in this fight. And like I said, I just thinking it all the way through. I'm looking at the two guys, where they are, the stages they are in their careers. I'm looking at AJ's obvious advantages in terms of height, reach, age, athleticism, power, the fact that he is at home, let's face it, the crowd are going to be very much on his side. And I just think that all those factors add up to AJ getting the win on Saturday. He is going to go through some difficult moments. He will be tested, but he's got the heart. We've seen he's a fighter with a tremendous heart. He's got determination. He's got ambition. And I think he will prevail.
Let's talk about this whole this lifetime contract announcement. It was announced this week that AJ will be a matchroom fighter for the rest of his career. A lifetime deal, rarely seen in the game, but kind of took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting it. Like Obes is saying here, weird timing and just a weird contract for me. I'll be honest, man. I don't really like these type of contracts, to be honest.
Yeah, you say contract, but has he signed anything? Because from what I'm hearing, they said they're shaking on it. So that doesn't sound like a contract to me. I mean, what if he loses on?
It's what I'm saying. But like for me, it's just
go awry, don't they? So
let's just say it is.
That excited about that, to be honest.
No, let's just say it is. Let's just say that it is legit. Like I just think that Matchroom might be up now. But it's never good for a fighter to kind of like sign your life away, so to speak, because things change. You get peaks and troughs in the game. Your window of opportunity as a prime, when you're a fighter in your prime, is short. You should be able to. I'm not saying you should break your contract, but you should always be open to another opportunity if it's there. I mean, let's be real. The whole AJ and Matchroom partnership has been fantastic. It's worked out brilliantly. But yeah, I don't know. For me, it was just a bit weird.
Listen, it's worked out well for both sides. And like I said, crucially, sometimes you have to look at things by what people don't say rather than what they say. So we are being told, or we're being led to believe, that AJ has not signed any contract. What I'm hearing is that they've shaken on it. So they've got a verbal agreement. And we all know what happens in life with verbal agreements. Verbal agreements are just that, verbal.
If it's a verbal agreement, what's the point of saying it? What's the point of making a fuss about it?
Well, I think a verbal agreement gives both sides an out, doesn't it? That's the advantage of a verbal agreement. So if you got a verbal agreement with somebody and it doesn't quite work out for either party, they can cut themselves loose at any given time, and you won't end up in court. That's what that means. So. You know what? I think AJ, his whole focus has to be on Saturday. And I think it's very much a case of after this fight, we'll see what happens with that deal and where it's going. Because let's face it, if he loses, God forbid, on Saturday, that whole deal is up in smoke, isn't it? They'll have to rewrite that contract anyway, isn't it? Everything is dependent on him winning. We all know that. Because if he loses, his marketability is going to drop like a stone. Isn't it? Because let's face it, Usyk will be the one to go on to fight the winner of Fury and Wilder. Although I would imagine that there would be some kind of rematch clause if the fight.
Oh yeah, there will be. Yeah.
So yeah, I think everything happens after Saturday, man. So I'm not really too focused on that so-called contract or lack thereof. It's all about what happens on Saturday night in the ring.
Nathan says here, what do you guys think of Florian Marku? I don't know if you saw him at the press conference today.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I mean, listen, man.
Yeah, I know you're not really into that sort of thing, are you?
To be honest, it came off as a little bit lightweight, to be honest, as far as when you see what happened with Canelo-Plant and Canelo, and then you see Florian Marku and this guy going at it, you think, really? You know what I mean? Now, I know that Florian Marku is quite an entertaining, he's quite an edgy character, isn't he? Yeah. He's quite a machismo type of guy. I do like watching him box, actually, but he's not really fought anyone yet for us to get really excited about, is it?
No.
It's all, you know what I mean? He's been calling people out, and I don't doubt the veracity of his call-outs, but until I see him stepped up to anywhere near approaching like a decent level, then, you know what I mean? I can't really say too much, to be honest. He's just a guy that's out there trying to make his name. But he looks decent, you know what I mean?
Yeah, very true. Ian Hamilton said here, I could see the argument for AJ going by himself, but then Matchroom have done so much for him. Plus, he's their poster boy, so why change? Plus, Matchroom are the best out. Yeah, they're the best out now. But you look at all the top fighters like Canelo, Mayweather, Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao. These guys eventually just broke away from that chain, didn't they? And just thought, you know what, let me be my own boss and I'll sell my fight rights to the highest bidder. I thought that AJ could have put himself in a position to do that. He's certainly got the marketability to do that, but he's
got his own management company as well, and he's got the 258 promotions. He signed up a couple of fighters. I mean, Lawrence Okoli, who's fighting on the undercard, he signed to AJ. You know what I mean? So he does have his own thing going. Like I said, I think it's very instrumental that there's no contract signed. Eddie Hearn said that they've got a verbal agreement to move forward, and I think in many ways that kind of makes sense because it's almost like on a fight by fight basis. So we'll see what happens. AJ has to win. or at least not lose, because if he does lose on Saturday, those plans are temporarily on hold, depending on whether they have a rematch. And if he loses badly, those plans go up in smoke. So like I said, I'm not really watching that contract stuff too much. That's the sidebar information right now for me.
Yeah. IB has said here, AJ said that Wilder beats Fury. Of course, we get an IFL interview with Gareth the Arsehole Davis questioning it. I haven't seen that yet, but I could imagine.
Gareth Davis.
I'm going to watch that, IB, because that's just going to make me. You're not going to watch it, Lloyd, because I'll piss you off. But it's just, of course, IFL going to drop an interview after that. Gareth Davis protecting his boy Fury, isn't he?
Yeah, of course he is. I mean, the guy's Gareth Davis. I mean, I told you off camera, didn't I, about a show I was listening to on the way back from the gym the other night. I think it was last Friday with Gareth A. Davis. It was on TalkSport with Adam Catterall. And they had Mauricio Suleiman on there, and they were quizzing him about the Oscar Valdez situation. And anybody that listened to it, when you hear me criticize Gareth A. Davis as being a real dick rider in the business, if you listen to that show, you will understand exactly what I mean. It got to the stage where Adam Catterall, to his credit, was actually trying to ask Mauricio Suleiman some testing questions. And you know what Gareth A. Davis did? He kept interrupting Adam Catterall and saying, "Oh, well, I know Mauricio's got a point there. I can see what he's trying to say here. I can see." Basically giving Mauricio Suleiman out. And this is what I'm saying about these guys. They've got no integrity. None. You know what I mean? He's bought and paid for, and he's basically a fanboy with a journalistic accreditation. The guy is terrible for the sport. I challenge anybody to prove me wrong on that. The guy's a disaster, man. You know what I mean? And he doesn't, and you can clearly see that he doesn't know a lot about the sport either.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? The less said about that idiot, the better, because that's what he is, an idiot. So
let's move on to Canelo-Plant here. Stefan brought it up, and he said here, obviously, let's talk about it first of all. The press conference, very entertaining. Started off with the face-off. Canelo and Plant going face-to-face, head-to-head. You know what I mean? They were saying some words to each other. Canelo pushed Plant. Plant slapped him, because it did land. Plant slapped him. Canelo came back with a two-piece, cut Plant's left eye. You know what I mean? Entertaining, man. I did like it was entertaining, and the whole internet went crazy after that. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like Stefan said here, and I highlighted it on my page as well, Canelo didn't like some of those home truths that Plant was telling him. You know what I mean? Plant was really, I like to see it as well. Like I said,
listen, man.
Doing it. Yeah, Plant was doing it, and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's all good going up against Canelo. We all respect him, but you know what I mean? Like, you want to see a guy go in there believing he could win, and Plant, to me, looks like he believes it. I'm not saying he will, but fair play to Plant for calling it out, man. They didn't directly answer the question either. Do you know what I mean? Normally I defend Canelo on here, but they didn't really respond to Plant's, you know, what he was saying directly. They kind of skirted around it, just responding with threats. So what was your take on that whole press conference, man? What did you think about it?
First up, Caleb-Plant, man. Well, listen, win, lose or draw, Caleb-Plant, for me, you got a new fan. Because, not actually, to be honest, I liked him anyway, but even more so now, because I like the fact he's willing to take on Canelo and the boxing establishment, those people who are riding for Canelo hard. And he put it on him, man. He put it on him. And the thing is, he didn't say anything that is not true, did he? No. You tell me one thing that Caleb-Plant said that day that was not true. He's a drugs cheat, you know what I mean? And it's really disgusting and sickening that people in the game won't call it out. Your Gareth A. Davises.
You see Eddie Hearn's interview. You see Hearn's interview on
Eddie Hearn. The same Eddie Hearn, who I might add, was the one that when Jarrell Miller got busted, he was saying, "Oh, he could have murdered my mate if he'd have fought AJ Needham. He needs to be thrown out the sport." Remember? And he kicked him out of matchroom boxing. And yet here he is defending Canelo because Canelo's a cash cow. See, this is what I'm saying about the hypocrisy in this sport, man. You know what I mean? Disgusting. And that's what I like about Caleb-Plant. The fact that he stood there on the dais and spoke his truth and said, listen, you are a drugs cheat. And I absolutely commend him for doing it. Win, lose or draw, no matter what happens, because let's face it, it's unlikely that he's going to beat Canelo. But win, lose or draw, I absolutely commend him for doing it. And listen, Billy Joe Saunders, I gave him credit at the time because he was like mentioning it, implying it, kept going on about Mexican meat. But Canelo-Plant, as far as I'm aware, is the first person to actually come out and put it on him in public and say, you are a cheat. You and your team, you are cheats, which is what they are. What I'm saying and what he said, we cannot be sued for libel. It's a fact. And to see people in the boxing industry, your Ring magazines, your Dougie Fishers, your Steve Kims, your Dan Raphaels, your Gareth A. Davis and people like that, who choose to almost willfully ignore this stuff, it really grates on me, man. It's disgusting. So to see Canelo-Plant get up there and call Canelo out on it, it was fantastic for me. It was great. You know what I mean? And let's be honest as well. I like Canelo-Plant's energy. He's letting it be known that he has no respect for Canelo outside the ring. He did say he was a good fighter, but he said he's coming to win. And I don't believe it's smoke and mirrors. I think he's coming to win. Now, whether he does win or not is another story, of course, because as I've said many times before, Canelo is a great fighter. And, you know what I mean, trying to beat him, especially if you're not a puncher, is a nigh on impossible task, it seems, because the way boxing politics are with the judges and everything. But listen, all that aside for now, I'm looking forward to the fight already. And big up to Canelo-Plant. Not only has he sold the fight, but everything he said, I agree with.
Eddie Hearn is getting roasted in the comments here. Nathan has said, Hearn said that Plant said incorrect stuff. What a hypocrite.
What was incorrect?
Yeah, no, that's what he's saying. Hearn said that Plant said, yeah. So basically, yeah. Sorry, I misread what he said there. But like, yeah, you agree with what Nathan's saying. Stefan's saying it as well. He said here, Hearn has the nerve to shed those crocodile tears after the death of Patrick Day, but he's also happy to worship a known drugs cheat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Canelo was pissed off.
With Frank Warren. And the same with Frank. Frank Warren's the same. He does that. I mean, he promotes a fighter, Tyson Fury. He's a convicted drugs cheat as well. And he will talk all day long about the dangers of drugs in the sport, but he won't say anything about Tyson Fury testing positive for nandrolone. You know what I mean? And that's what these guys are. They're hypocrites, man. You know what I mean? Hypocrites. Yeah. And what Nathan says here, in reference to that motherfucker remark, that is absolute bullshit. Anyone that believes that is an absolute idiot, because you and I know, Daryl, that Canelo perfectly well understands that word motherfucker, because he called Demetrius Andrade a motherfucker after the press conference, after the fight with Billy Joe Saunders in the press conference when him and Andrade were going at it. He was using a load of American expletives, including the word motherfucker. So for him to say, I got upset because he insulted my mum, that's lies. The reason why he was so triggered, right, was because of the fact that Canelo-Plant kept going on about the drugs and they didn't have an adequate answer for it. And if you heard what Eddie Reynoso was babbling on about people trying to turn it into something to discredit Mexicans, what a load of bullshit.
What's that got to do with it? Yeah, I didn't agree with that.
Canelo-Plant never said anything about Mexican fighters. He said that gym and your fighters. That's what he said. He didn't say the whole of Mexican fighters is on PEDs. He said your gym, Eddie Reynoso. He said Canelo and that gym. And that is accurate, man, because 4 of the 5 fighters or whoever fighters he trains have tested positive for PEDs. That is a fact. No one can sue Canelo-Plant for saying that, because it's a statistical fact. And that's why they were getting so upset, Daryl. You know what I mean? We know that. All this stuff about, yeah, he insulted my mum. Anyone who believes that, man, you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Yeah. And this is, you know what I mean? I saw something from Ricky Atten's son as well, where he was saying, I saw the title and I just thought, I'm not even watching that. You are a fucking idiot, you are behind that, bro. And then this is the thing. If one of these British guys go in there and get beat by one of these guys, the first thing they're going to be doing is complaining about drugs. But when you got your opportunity to speak out about it, when Callum Smith, I've heard Liam Smith go on about he thought Canelo was out of pocket and basically a drug street. I've heard Liam Smith imply that and say that quite a few times. Yet still, when Callum Smith fought, all he did was talk about what a great fighter Canelo was. So you say certain things in the comfort of your own home, in your own country, the internet, but when you're faced in front of the guy, you don't say anything. And this is why I like what Canelo-Plant did. He addressed it. He put it out there. And now the whole world knows.
I saw that Campbell Hatton. I saw the title.
So all these guys who are having a pop at him saying, oh, he shouldn't have done that. Why not? He's doing the right. He's doing what you fucking scared ass wimps are afraid to do. He's done it.
I saw the title of that Campbell Hatton interview. And I just rolled my eyes, man. I was just like, what the hell are you talking about, man?
He's a dickhead.
What are you on about, man?
Ignorant dickhead behind that.
Big up Obes here. I haven't seen this interview with Maurizio Suleiman on the Boxing Boys, but I'm going to watch that because I want to see him get destroyed by people. I want to see it. I want to see that. So I'm going to check that out, Obes. Big up, man.
I'll have to watch that.
Yeah. Stefan said here, Canelo's
of Eddie Reynoso, Canelo, and all those, and Oscar Valdez. It's despicable. And then, like I said, it's so hypocritical because the same guys that do that, your Doug Fishers, your Steve Kims, your Dan Raphaels, your Gareth A. Davis, in the next breath, they'll be talking about how disgusting it was that Jarrell Miller and Sean Pascal, one or two others. And the reason why they do that, remove the color thing, right? I'm not necessarily saying it's a color thing, but I'm saying that because those guys have a much lesser profile and status in the sport, you just go after those guys because they're easy targets. But when it's someone like Canelo, who's the so-called face of boxing and a pound, you don't want to say nothing. So that's what I'm saying. As far as I'm concerned, your guys' integrity is non-existent. You have no integrity. I don't care how long you've been in the game, how much you know about the actual sport and all that stuff. You've got no journalistic integrity. You're just another guy, a little fat, whatever he is, guy with a microphone and a camera. That's all you are.
Stefan has said here, Canelo has roid rage.
Well, it certainly looked like it.
He was triggered very easily at that
behavior when I've worked on the doors before. You tell somebody something, a home truth, and they want to try and tear your head off. You know what I mean? And the man lied. He said it was because of his mum. And you know that was not the truth. My mum used to say to me back in the day, a liar and a thief walk the same street.
Yeah. Big up Francisco here. He said here, I've never been impressed with Reynoso's in-fight instructions, so I always thought that he was good at preparing his guys in the gym. Now we know that tea time and lunch are key to that preparation. And Francisco is a Mexican. I saw a lot of Mexicans, obviously. Listen, I get it. Do you know what I mean? They were showing out for Canelo. Totally understand it. They were riding out for him. I saw it on Twitter as well.
Is it totally understandable? I don't think it is.
I get, like, Canelo's the star. People like to ride with who's winning. He's Mexican. They're Mexican. I get it. I get it. Do you know what I mean? But Francisco's, he's saying it here. He's Mexican and he's saying it as it is. So, yeah, I mean,
listen, man, when Oscar Valdez failed that last test, do you know what Canelo is on the record as saying? He said, we're good. What do you think he meant by that when he said that? He said, we're good, because he knows that the boxing establishment are going to protect those guys. And that's what we're all angry about. We're not saying that it's just those guys, you know, that it's just Canelo, because it isn't. We all know that boxing has a problem with pets. But if you're going to have this thing in boxing about we've got to get rid of the drug street, and then when one of the more high-profile fighters or camps get busted for drugs and nothing's done about it, what's the point of having all these rules in place? The WBC say, and they like to laud it to everyone, we were responsible for the clean boxing program. Yeah, but it's all right, you've established that, but then one of your fighters who you're in favor of gets caught, what do? You don't ban him, and if you do, it's for 6 months where he wasn't going to fight anyway. And more shameful still, you up the level of clenbuterol so he won't fail any future tests.
That was what a lot of people are coming to his defense, like, oh, it was proven that level that he tested positive for was obviously a contamination. He was cleared. You know, it was medically proven that it wasn't a steroid, like a performance enhancing issue. Like, it wasn't enough of it in his system to do that. I saw a lot of people on the defensive for Canelo.
Hang
with
on
that.
a minute. I've just, you know what? It's remarkable. I've just seen a pig flying across this window as we speak. That is absolute nonsense. Last week, Maurizio Suleiman, he had the cheat. He was on this TalkSport show that I was talking about. And his argument for allowing Valdez to fight was, well, it was only fentanyl and, you know what I mean, it's not performance enhancing.
Yeah.
So Adam Catterall, fair play to him, he said, well, actually, it is a performance enhancing drug as set by VADA, who are the guys that you got to oversee this program. And he tried to use all these little excuses. Oh, yeah, but, you know, the levels that were found in him, it wasn't performance enhancing. It wouldn't have made any material difference. And Adam Catterall said, yeah, but it is. It's a drug that VADA say can be used to A, aid weight loss, and B, improve stamina. So it is performance enhancing. And all he kept doing was some real loose analogies about if you go into a shop and you get caught stealing a chocolate bar, it's not the same as robbing a bank. I'm like, bro, what? Such disingenuous nonsense. And then Gareth H. Davis, as I said, anybody can go back and pull up the interview on iPlayer or wherever it is, you can find these things. And Gareth H. Davis was doing his best to prevent Adam Catterall from going down the road of tough question. He was actually saying, yeah, I get the points Maurizio's making. I get the point he's making. Now, if that had been Jarrell Miller or John Pascal or any other lesser known fighter, right, that had taken that drug, I guarantee you, Gareth A. Davis, Doug Fisher, Steve Kim, all these guys, their reactions would have been totally different.
Stefan has said here, the Triple G Murata unification is made for December, apparently. That's a good fight. Murata is a hot and cold fighter, and Triple G is clearly on the slide. Should be a good one. Yeah, I heard that as well this week. Waited the whole year to basically make that, almost a year for that fight to happen. Are you excited about that one?
Not particularly. I'd like to see Triple G exit boxing now. I don't know how good Murata is. I mean, Murata is an outstanding amateur. He's a former Olympic gold medalist. You would have thought that he's coming to the pro, although he's getting on a bit as well because he turned pro quite late. But Murata, if he's going to achieve anything in this game, man, he should be really beating Triple G. I mean, I saw Triple G's fight against Deryochenko. He was extremely fortunate to get that decision. And you can see he slipped quite a bit. I mean, how old is he now? He must be getting on for about
37, 38.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, and Triple G, let's be honest, man, he's been hiding in plain sight, really, hasn't he? He stayed away from a lot of people who would have given him a good fight. He seems to be targeting Murata. I don't know. But I'd like to see him call it a day, to be honest. Because at this stage, he's not really enhancing the sport, is he? He just seems to be hanging around, waiting for another shot at Canelo. Canelo's never going to fight Triple G again, even if he does beat Murata.
Yeah. Middleweight division just stinks, man. It stunk for a long time. It's a unification fight, yeah. But, yeah, I don't know.
As long as these guys hang around for paydays and stuff or try and pick up titles against opponents that they think they can beat, you know what I mean, try and get what they deem as the easy way out. Boxing will always suffer from this type of stuff. Boxing is like any other sport, man. You need new stars in it. You've seen the impact that Emma Raducanu's had in tennis, isn't it? Yeah. She's now the face of tennis, pretty much. And she's come in, she's young, she's vibrant, she's talented, and she enhances her sport. You know what I mean? And that's what boxing needs. That's what we were hoping for from the likes of Teofimo and Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney and people like that. But unfortunately, no sooner as some of these guys win titles or win eliminators, then they don't fight no more. You know what I mean? That's a bit like Emma Raducanu not playing tennis for the next 2 years and just living off her laurels. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what boxing needs. We need new. I want to see more of Jerome Ennis. I want to see more of what's his name, Virgil Ortiz, people like that. I want to see more Conor Benz, and there's lots of exciting fighters around the world. We're just not seeing them. They're all being held up because of guys like Triple G, just muddying the water. I mean, and I'm serious, man. I mean, he was once an excellent fighter who we all used to enjoy watching. But come on, the 37-30-year-old Triple G that hasn't fought for 2 years, and even when he did fight, he lost, and they're trying to recycle him now. That's not going to excite the world of boxing, is it? We need new people, man. You know what I mean?
He did fight that.
Invigorate the sport. That's what we want to see. Don't want to see him.
He did fight that mandatory, didn't he? That Polish mandatory.
The less said about that, the better, man. That was awful. That's what I'm saying, man. That's why boxing is in this parlous state that it's in. Because there's no new... Well, like I said, there are guys out there, but it's only people like me and you and some of the people watching this show, the real boxing nerds who know about them. Yeah. They're not getting their opportunities because we're forced to watch people like Triple G fighting to his 40s, not fighting anyone in particular, swerving all the young, hungry, exciting guys and trying to cherry pick titles. You know what I mean? It's no good.
Let me go through these comments, man. A few people addressing you in the comments. Conrad has said here, damn, Laurie is destroying again. Ian Hamilton has said here, I wonder if Laurie will have the nerve to enter Mexico anytime soon. Conrad has said
I always wanted to go to Mexico.
Yeah, I'd like to go to Mexico.
It's a great holiday destination. Maybe when all this COVID nonsense subsides, I might take a little trip out and visit some of the gyms, man. I might try and knock on Eddie Reynoso's door and maybe get a mic and a camera and sitting down and asking some proper questions. Because it seems like the journalists around at the moment don't want to do it.
Conrad has said here, it's great. I'm glad to hear that voice of reason once a week. Obes has said here,
and as I've said before, you know what? It's such a shame, really, because I like watching Canelo fight. The guy is a great fighter, but it's all the bullshit that goes on around him, and all the people are just so subservient to him, man. And I just find it like, do you like Canelo or do you like the sport of boxing? You know what I mean? It is possible to like both, but people's allegiances seem to be to Canelo. At the detriment to boxing. And I'm not just talking about the fanboys. I'm talking about the journalists and people who should know better. I'm not just talking about one specific set of fan groups, Mexican fans or Latino fans. I'm talking about boxing as a whole. You know, like I said, you've seen it this week, even amongst British fighters. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, Canelo, that was out of order what Plant said. Why is it out of order? It's actual facts.
Obes is saying, cheer up, man. It's fight week. AJ,
no, I'm good, man. I'm good. You know what I mean? And like I said, that's why I give so much credit to guys like AJ and Usyk. Because with this fight, man, there's none of that nonsense. You know what I mean? None. Yeah. May the best man win.
Francisco has said here, let me know if you go to Mexico, Laurie. I'll call my cousins down there and they can hook you up with some clenbuterol beef. When you feel how it improves your uppercut, maybe you'll change your mind. Listen, I want to go, man. I'd love to go to Mexico. We should sort it out.
I will do. Listen, man, Francisco, if I ever do go, man, I'll let you know, and maybe you can hook me up with some nice places.
Be your protection.
Stuff like that. Listen, you know what? I'm sure there are a lot of Mexican people who feel the same way as me, because I know Francisco has got his reservations about Canelo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I've spoken to people online who've got Latino names, Mexican-sounding names, and they're as exasperated as a lot of us are. You know what I mean? Because like I said, this guy is a great fighter. Shouldn't have to be putting up with all this. And then when you see what happens with him, and then you saw what happened with Oscar Valdez and that, it just leaves a real bad taste in the mouth.
Conrad has said here, I firmly believe that without critical fans, the situation would be even worse. Big up you guys. He's spot on there. Mohammed has said here, prediction for the AJ fight, Laurie. So he must have joined.
Yeah, I gave my prediction already. Like I said, before now, I was going for an AJ stoppage, but the more I think, and maybe I'm second guessing myself a little bit, still going for AJ, but I like him on a wide points decision. I think he might either drop Usyk a couple of times or seriously hurt him on the way to winning on points.
And I've got Joshua by decision as well, but not as wide as Laurie. I think it could be even go as close as a majority decision, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to that fight. Last topic of the day, Laurie, before we close out. Manny Pacquiao. He hasn't actually formally announced this, so I'm always a bit skeptical about it, but he did an interview speaking about his upcoming presidential campaign. he's running to be the president of the Philippines, and he was asked, you know, if you win this campaign, is your boxing career over? And Manny Pacquiao basically said, my boxing career is over already. Everybody caught wind of that. So, you know, they've actually said, you know, like it looks like that Manny Pacquiao has announced his retirement. But I haven't seen anything on the socials. I haven't seen him make no public announcement. And for me, I was just like, yeah, I'll report on it. I'll put it out there. But, you know what I mean? I'm just a bit, I haven't seen you say anything. So technically, I guess you are retired because you said it, but I haven't seen no statement or nothing. Like, what did you think about that?
Well, he needs to retire, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Whether I totally believe what he says, I'm not sure. I mean, let's be honest, Manny is another one. He's a great fighter, but I don't always trust what comes out of his mouth. I'm just keeping it real.
Did you see the interview?
No, I didn't see the interview, but I read the comments and stuff like that. Now, what I would say is, I think what Manny might be trying to do is to convince the Filipino that he's wholly and solely focused on this presidential election. So can you imagine if he said, imagine if you're a prospective voter in the Philippines and you hear him say something like, well, I'm putting my boxing career on hold while I try and become president of the Philippines. Now that's going to have a slightly wrong look on it, isn't it?
It's a good point.
So I think what he might be doing is hedging his bets a little bit and saying he's not boxing. He's fully focused on becoming the president of the Philippines. And if he wins, he probably follow through and, you know what I mean, deliver on that. Because I do genuinely believe that he's very sincere in his willingness to help his people. I'm not disputing that for 1 minute. I just want to make that clear. But if he was to lose the election, then he might think to himself, well, I've got boxing to fall back on, and he might have one fight. Because the one thing we know about boxers, and it's pretty much 99.9% recurring of them, is that they don't like to go out of boxing on a loss, especially a guy that has such a great resume as he does. That would have been very disappointing for him to lose that fight. And he was, let's face it, he was well beaten. And then we heard all the excuses after. So he might still be thinking in the back of his mind that I could come back one day and win a world title. Or even if he doesn't win a world title, I don't want to go out sport that I've graced for all these years on a loss. That could be the ego playing tricks in his mind, thinking, yeah, you've still got one big fight left in you. Or it might not even be one big fight. It might be one big night in the Philippines, showcasing his talent in front of his fans, get a win and bow out that way, which I wouldn't really have a big problem with.
Yeah. I thought it was a bit...
I doubt whether we've seen him in the ring for the very last time, unless, of course, he does win the presidential election, which, you know what, I hope he does win.
I'll be honest, man. It was a bit anticlimactic for me, or anticlimactic, should I say, because when you've had a career like Pacquiao's, do you know what I mean? One of the GOATs of this era, to have that kind of announcement as it was, no official announcement on your socials, you just saying it in an interview, then everyone's like, oh, Manny Pacquiao's retired now. Like, I'm just thinking, you can't go out the game like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you'd expect some sort of announcement, you know what I mean? Him speaking about his career, even holding a press conference or something, just to reflect on his career and formally announce it. The way how it came about, I was just like, this is someone like you, man. Nah, we need a real announcement that you're retired, and we didn't get that. We just saw the interview where you just said your boxing career's over. So I'm a bit skeptical.
And let's be honest, it was a few weeks ago we was hearing that he was going to come back, wasn't he? He was saying that he had leg cramps. It should have been the easiest fight of his career. Ugas is not that. He's far from the best he's fought. That's what we were hearing a couple of weeks ago. Now it's gone full circle that his career's done. So I'm wondering, him making that statement the other day, was that just because he's at this point in time focused on becoming on his presidential campaign? And if he wins that, then, because like I said, if you're going for something like that, you have to kind of show respect to the Filipino people. And if you're still talking about your boxing career, a lot of people that may vote for you might think, actually, you know what I mean? Are you a politician or a boxer? You're going to have to make a decision soon as to which one it is. So like I said, I think if he does become the president of the Philippines and he wins this election, then he probably won't fight again. But if he loses and doesn't become president, I think we might see him in a ring once more.
Yeah.
That's my personal view on that.
let's see what actually happens, man. I'm not sure when the whole campaign finishes, but yeah, I mean, I've got no sort of allegiance to any sort of campaign in the Philippines, but just being a Pacquiao fan, I suppose you'd like to see him do it, wouldn't you? But let's see what happens.
I mean, listen, I'm a fan, and despite I've criticised him, that I think he's the criticism has been justified. I'm talking in terms of some of the excuses he's proffered up when he hasn't won and things like that. That's kind of irritated me a little bit. Although we do also have to qualify that and saying a lot of boxers are that way inclined, so it's not unusual. Although but he's been a great fighter, all-time great. There's no doubt about it. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Everybody knows that. And like you said, it would be a little weird to see him go out like this with a bit of a whimper, really. And like I said, all those things considered makes me think that we're probably going to see him back in the ring again.
Yeah. Hopefully not, man, but let's see what happens. Laurie, we're going to wrap it up for today. Another very good show, man. Very entertaining show. You let rip today, man. We love to see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Great show. Big up to everybody in the chat. Obviously, what you guys need to do before you go out, if you haven't already, like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And listen, man, big weekend of action for boxing, man.
Yeah.
Big weekend of action. Hopefully, we should be able to announce something soon. I'm not sure if it's ready yet, Laurie. Not yet.
Yeah, we're working on that this weekend at the AFTV studios. We're hoping to have Daryl down. We're going to be doing a watch along of the Usyk AJ fight, or AJ Usyk fight is the better way of putting it. Yeah, man. So we're working on that right now. So yeah, look forward to that. Should be announcing that very shortly. So yeah, that should be a great night. I'm looking forward to this fight, man. Boxing needs nights like this. You know what I mean?
100%.
Boxing needs badly as well. You know what I mean? It's been a little while now since we've had a fight to get everybody excited as this one is. You know what I mean? We've put up with that Oscar Valdez nonsense a couple of weeks ago, and then we had after that debacle involving Holyfield and stuff like that. And then we've had too many of these YouTube fights and YouTubers taking on MMA guys and stuff like that. At least this weekend, man, this is what I call a real fight with two real fighters at the top of their game. And, you know what I mean? It can't miss. It can't miss.
At least Riddick Bowe got pulled out. You hear about that?
Gosh, that was. I had my bullets lined up for that one, man. But we're hearing now that Riddick Bowe mercifully has been pulled. But don't even get me started on that one, man. That was. All I can say about that is that I'm hearing. I think it's been confirmed that he's been pulled from that show.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday.
Yeah, so thank God for that, because that would have been an absolute abomination.
Big up to everybody in the chat, man. Like I said, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Hopefully, we'll have that announcement for you guys officially soon. But you guys are the first to hear it on here. It'll be streamed live on the Don Robbie channel, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That watch along. So look out for that. If you can't look out for the live show, then I'll try and get it uploaded onto this channel anyway. But big up to everybody, man. Great weekend of boxing ahead, and we'll catch you guys very soon, man. Peace.